The lion, trapped in an old tree, struggled for every breath. But what happened when people dared to approach changed the course of events. The early savannah was heavy with silence. Heat pressed down through the sun had only just risen, and the dry air carried the sharp scent of dust and cracked bark. Grass whispered in short gusts of wind, but high above that faint rustle came a sound that broke the calm. A desperate roar, muffled and strained. On the branches of an old acacia, a young male lion was trapped. He had misjudged a leap, and his massive body had become wedged between thick, splintered limbs. His golden coat was streaked with dust, and his claws dug deep into the bark, locked in place. Every breath shook his chest. The animal's eyes, normally steady and commanding, flicked wildly as he tried to free himself. Each movement made the branches groan and cut deeper into his flesh. From below, several people had gathered. Farmers who had seen the commotion stood back at a distance, their voices hushed. Two rangers moved cautiously forward, carrying ropes and long poles, but their faces showed hesitation. The power of the lion was legendary, and even now, exhausted and cornered, he could unleash sudden violence. The men's boots crunched softly in the dry soil, a reminder that every step closer was a risk. The lion's tail lashed in frustration, then dropped, heavy with fatigue. His tongue slipped past his teeth as he panted in the rising heat. Flies gathered around the edges of his mouth, drawn by the dampness of his breath. Overhead, vultures circled in widening loops, casting shadows that drifted slowly across the ground. The bird calls seemed to mark the urgency of his situation. One ranger signaled to the others. "We cannot leave him like this," he said quietly. Another shook his head. "One wrong move, and he will fall, or take one of us with him." Their voices were low, measured, carrying the tension of men who understood both danger and responsibility. The lion twisted again. His muscles rippled as he forced his body against the wood, but the tree held him like a trap. A deep groan escaped his throat, half snarl, half cry. The sound silenced the group below. For a moment, even the wind seemed to stop. It was a call not of dominance, but of pure distress. The men began laying out a plan. Nets were unrolled, ropes coiled on the ground. Their preparation was steady, deliberate, but shadows grew shorter as the sun climbed. Time pressed against them. Each minute of delay meant the lion's strength faded further. From the lion's vantage point, the humans below were shapes he could not fully trust. His ears twitched to every sound, the clink of metal, the whisper of rope sliding against itself. His chest heaved. He blinked hard, his gaze darting between the sky and the men on the ground. He was caught in a place no predator should ever be, powerless, suspended, waiting. The savannah seemed to hold its breath with him. The sharp scent of acacia sap hung in the hot air. Dust rose with every human step, catching the sunlight in a haze. And through it all, the lion's eyes glowed with a mix of fury and fear. But what happened next with the animal turned out to be even more unexpected. You will not want to miss this moment. The midday heat pressed heavily across the open plain. The air shimmered above the dry earth, and the tree stood like a solitary pillar under the white sky. Cicadas droned from the brush, their sharp rhythm piercing the silence. Beneath the acacia, the lion hung half-sprawled among the branches, his chest rising and falling in ragged waves. Each exhale came with a low rasp. The rangers advanced, Their boots sank slightly into the brittle soil as they spread a wide net on the ground. Two of them raised long poles, carefully testing how close they could approach without provoking a violent lunge. The lion's ears flattened as they drew nearer. His lips curled back, exposing teeth streaked with dust. A guttural growl rolled down from the tree, powerful even in his weakened state. Every eye remained locked on him. His tail flicked once, then went still. He shifted his weight, and the branches creaked loudly under the strain. For a heartbeat, the rescuers froze, fearing that the wood would snap. One man whispered, "Hold steady. Do not let him panic." The lion's body trembled. His claws scraped against bark, sending splinters downward. He blinked hard, pupils wide against the glare of the sun. Saliva gathered at the edge of his mouth, a sign of exhaustion. Yet, in his stare, there was no surrender, only raw defiance. The men knew they had only moments. They positioned ladders against the trunk, their movements deliberate and controlled. One ranger climbed slowly, rope slung over his shoulder. The lion swung his head toward him, eyes burning with suspicion. Muscles tightened along his shoulders, and a hoarse roar thundered across the plain. Even the vultures above faltered in their flight, circling wider as if the sound had pushed them back. At ground level, another ranger readied the rope. His hands moved quickly, sweat darkening the fabric of his gloves. He called upward, "Closer to the foreleg, secure there." The climber adjusted, leaning carefully along the branch. The wood bowed, groaning under the combined weight of man and beast. Suddenly, movement at the edge of the plain drew attention. Figures appeared, carrying rifles slung in their arms. Farmers recognized them instantly, men known to chase profit from suffering wildlife. Their presence turned the air thick with unease. While the rescuers worked to free the lion, these newcomers lingered like a threat waiting for weakness. The lion sensed the tension below. His breathing quickened, his chest rising higher with each inhale. He snarled again, a sound deeper and more broken than before. The rescuers did not stop. They pulled the rope tighter, securing it around a main branch, preparing to ease his trapped body down. One sharp crack split the silence. The branch beneath his hindquarters snapped. Dust erupted in a cloud as bark rained down. The lion jerked violently, his body twisting in midair. For a brief, terrifying instant, all movement halted. Every person, every bird above, seemed frozen by the sudden collapse of the tree. The world held still, balanced on the edge of a single decision. The climax of his story begins right now. Everything will be decided in the next moment. You cannot miss what comes next.